All right, guys, our special guest is in the building, Mr. Michael Ealy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Michael, look, I feel like it's been almost like 24 hours we've been hanging out, man.
It's been like 12.
We did a premiere of your new movie, Intruder, yesterday. We had a whole, actually, you had multiple premieres. There were like all kinds of people filled up in the theaters that got a chance to see you yesterday right before we got to watch Intruders. That was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, no, it was. Thank you for coming last night. It really meant a lot. It was a great introduction. I thought we did a couple screenings last night. Everybody seems to really, have positive reviews of the film. Everybody still seems excited, you know, and like you said, everybody's a little frustrated with Megan, but again, I think once you understand the whole context of the film, it starts to make sense.
Absolutely. So look, I got a chance to see it in advance. And Shay, you haven't seen Intruder yet. Michael, just to set it up, can you set up the movie, and then I'm going to tell you why you get I'm so frustrated with Megan's character.
Not my girl Megan.
Megan, right? We all love Megan Good, right? But in this movie, you're going to love her, but then you're going to be like, come on, Megan.
Oh, man.
So set it up for us, man.
After the first 4 times.
It was the first 4 times I was like, come on, Megan.
So basically, you have this young couple played by Megan and myself, Scott and Annie, and they're trying to, pursue the American dream. They're trying to buy their first house, and they're trying to start their family. They're recently wedded couple, and so they're just trying to do it all, trying to do it big. And they buy this relatively expensive house out in Napa Valley. And, the previous owner is seemingly to be a good person. Okay. And ultimately, Charlie, played by Dennis Quaid.
Sounds creepy.
Yeah, Charlie sounds like a creepy name. Yes, it does, especially when it's played when that guy looks like Dennis Quaid. Oh my God. I would be upset if my name was Charlie, actually.
After
seeing this movie and my name was Charlie, I think I'd be trying to change it. Yeah, just call me Chuck. Yeah, right. So basically, this man helps make the American dream turn into a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay, I was watching the trailer and I'm just looking like,
Charlie is crazy, yo. Charlie is crazy. And, I loved it because, first and foremost, to see a black couple, right? You see a black couple in like a kind of like a scary, thriller type of movie that's exciting as the lead. Because, and I was saying this yesterday, I at least didn't grow up with black leads in scary type of movies or suspenseful movies. So that was really exciting, right? But then it's like I'm expecting them to do what a black couple would typically do. And Scott pretty much does it.
Yes.
All right,
Scott, Megan too nice in the movie, man. Annie had me like, come on, Annie. Enough, Annie. Get in the game. Get a bet, Annie. Muscle up. Because, anybody else, after a while, because again, he's creepy and you're going to see it and he, and you see the progression, but your character is like, come on, like, see it, and she never seems to see it, and it could be very costly for them in the long run.
I can't wait to see it. May 3rd.
May 3rd. I will say this, though, like I told you last night, I think, again, for me, where things go left is when he's on the property with the gun.
Right.
And the emotions that triggers in Scott based on his past. So I think, again, as audience members, I'm not the only one that feels that way in that moment. But Megan, as I told you last night, her character Annie is a glass half full person, and she's an optimist, and she tries to believe in the best of people.
She
what
does.
I mean? And so, let's be honest, there's some of us out there
that's just like that.
That are like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always say that's one of the things that Megan and I talked about was this is perhaps one of the reasons why Scott fell in love with her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if too pessimist, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It just ain't gonna work.
Yeah,
So
he's a nice guy too.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah, but he's not perfect. So.
Yeah, Scott's not perfect, and we see that.
Perfect.
But he knows
He
like
can't
we
fight.
shouldn't be near Charlie.
Yeah.
And I just was like, can we listen to Scott at some point in the movie? And let me ask, when you and Megan kind of sat together, I know you guys talked about how you all had a discussion about the movie essentially. And so, as you both both were reading this, did you know it was going to be? It looked like you guys had a lot of fun.
We did.
It looks like it's a fun time. So, did you all have those kind of discussions about the messaging behind the movie as well, and what you all were conveying?
I think because Megan and I had already worked together, we didn't have to spend a lot of time getting to know each other and asking each other if we got like a pet or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it was like, all right, cool. So let's do this. Let's make Scott and Annie very real. You're married, I'm married. Let's make them real. Like let's take some of these scenes where it feels a little Hollywood romanticized and let's ground them a little bit. And so we did that kind of work before we started shooting, and I feel like we got them to a really good place in terms of making them a relatable couple.
Definitely.
Because I do know that having been in certain romantic comedies, we as Hollywood portray this kind of romanticized version of love that makes people happy, but then it also sets up expectations that could be a little bit unrealistic at times.
Absolutely.
So you have to kind of ground things a little bit. I always loved Love Jones for that reason.
Yeah.
Because you saw the real hills and valleys of what it's like to fall in love. And like when you first meet, you just can't stop touching each other. And then you reach a point where you're like, if you don't get away from me,
I'm getting sick of
Or something.
don't you need some space or something? Like, you know what I mean?
Back up a little bit.
You know what I mean? So there's realness there.
What else did you have to do to prepare for this movie? Like the scary parts? Or just even imagining, you're buying this house from this guy and your wife looks outside and he's cutting the grass.
So the hardest thing, this is going to sound very arrogant. The hardest thing for me in this movie, in terms of prepping for this movie, was wrapping my head around the fact that I was going to lose a fight.
Right, okay. On your turf.
I realized
you do
that
lose a fight.
I
That's
have
true.
never in the history of my career lost a fight. Right? I've never lost a fight on camera. And for me to lose a fight, I had to be like, I mean, it was a struggle.
Yeah.
It was a struggle. And then to lose it to Dennis, it was like,
Charlie.
I mean, he's kind of buff though. Charlie has some major muscles.
He was jacked. He was jacked. But I was like, I don't care. I done beat up bigger people in Hollywood.
lose.
In Hollywood, I done beat up bigger
Right.
people. So I felt like, that was probably the hardest thing I had to kind of prepare and wrap my head around. Like, okay, so let me get this straight. I'm gonna lose this fight in front of my wife.
Yeah.
Oh.
Y'all sure that's how the story goes?
And then you're going to be hiding with your wife at some point,
yeah.
too.
It's one of those
humbling.
things where it was, like Dion was like, I don't want you to be Ealy on this movie. Like, I want you to be the anti-hero. I want you to be a regular dude. I want you to be vulnerable. And I was like, okay.
I'll do it.
I got you. Yeah, I could do this. It's for the craft.
It's for the craft. Now, Michael, before we let you go, you're home.
I
Welcome
am.
home.
Thank you. Thank you.
For
Good
people
to be
that
home.
don't know, you from the area?
I don't recognize this place.
Yeah, because you're on
I'm
Silver
sure.
Spring side,
I'm
right?
from
You went to
Silver
Springbrook?
Spring.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's
Where's
East
City
West
Place?
Highway. This is so disorienting.
Yeah.
It's so disorienting. There's all this new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Silver Spring and the city, just everywhere,
Yeah.
looks completely different, for sure.
It just does. I mean, the growth that has happened here in the last 20 years, I got a lot of questions.
Yeah, you should.
Like, I got a lot of questions.
You got to start coming back more. I feel like there's also kind of a little bit of a renaissance here now, as far as more. You have so many great talents here, and it looks like with technology, you don't have to necessarily leave and go to LA to pursue a dream. You can create so much, especially when you're talking streaming and the need for more content. What is your take? Like because you went to University of Maryland, College Park?
Yes.
Okay, so shout out to the Terps on that one. Did you then have to just pick up and go to LA, or what was it like for you just leaving this area? And again, your career is just taking off since.
Thank you. I left College Park and went to New York first.
Oh,
so
New York,
I graduated and then in like May, June, and then I was in New York in September. Wow. And I started out in New York. I did 5 years in New York. And when I got to New York, I had this beautiful college degree and became like a busser. I was like not even a waiter. I was a busser.
A busser, right?
Yeah,
so you're not even getting tips.
Grinding.
So yeah, no, I was getting tips from the people getting tips.
Okay.
Right, and eventually I got a promotion to waiter, and that was that was I mean it was a struggle because most people I know graduate from college and go get a job and have good health care.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, don't get sick.
Right, you had no health care.
Don't get in a car accident. Don't get sick, and don't break a leg.
You can't go to the hospital.
I was not going to the hospital.
And you pushed through for 5 years.
I don't know how I didn't get sick or die.
God.
Or hurt. Yes. By the grace of God, I made it
Absolutely.
through. Absolutely, because there's no other way.
So how have you kept going in this, and just despite that, like, so a lot of people probably wouldn't have made it 5 years and feeling like you didn't progress in a sense, right? So, what made you keep going, keep pursuing that dream, and what advice would you give to all our content creators and future actors and actresses coming out of this area?
That's a good question. I think what actually worked for me, and I don't know if this will work for everybody, was when I got to New York, I didn't tell anybody that I was there for acting.
Okay.
I didn't tell anybody what my dreams were. I just kind of, I felt like I didn't want to hear any noise. I didn't want to hear any distractors. I didn't want to hear any people say, oh, you just another pretty face. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, and just write me off as a person, because when you get there to New York or LA, obviously a lot of people at that time were there to pursue their dreams.
Right.
And so, to avoid becoming a cliche, I mean, here I was waiting tables, right? So I just didn't tell anybody, and everybody thought I was there to pursue my master's in secondary education, which I thought was hilarious. So I went there acting as if I wasn't there to act.
Wow.
And what I found was it enabled me to kind of have a certain amount of tunnel vision, and it enabled me to kind of close out all the noise. And I was able to kind of stay focused that way. So I feel like times have changed now. Everybody has to announce and broadcast who they are and what they're doing.
Right.
I can't speak to that. It didn't work for me that way.
I can't relate.
You know what I mean? I found it much more better to be quiet and focus and stay driven. And so I think that worked for me, and I got no regrets.
Yeah.
I got no regrets. By the time people were aware that I was doing something, I had something that quote unquote validated it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It validated my decision to move to New York and take no health care and really risk it. So you got to do it your own way. You got to find your own way.
Yeah.
But right now, there's a lot more access to the business than there was when I was here. There was no business to try and get into. There was no way to do it. And people in Atlanta, when I'm working in Atlanta, people say the same thing. They're like, how can I do it? And I'm like, you probably should move to LA, because they're still making all the decisions there in a lot of ways. But like you said, with streaming, you could do everything yourself. You can be completely self-contained now.
Michael Ealy, thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you for hanging with us. And everybody, make sure you go see Intruder May 3rd. It's a fun movie. It's suspenseful. It's scary. And it'll have you yelling at Megan Good for sure. For sure. We will be all yelling.
Poor Annie.
Stop it,
Poor
Annie.
Annie. Yeah.
Listen to Scott, Annie. But thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Thank you.